Anthony Scaramucci is a former communications director for the White House under President Trump. The whole time he was in the White House was, dare I say, full of chaos from the moment he stepped in. Literally, the press secretary resigned on Anthony's appointment. Anyway, to cut a short story even shorter, somehow within 11 days of Anthony's new job, the White House chief of staff resigned. The White House chief of staff resigned, and Anthony subsequently was fired um, by President
Oh,
Trump within.
you left out Bannon though, Eli. That was a
Oh, I
big
know I
thing.
left out a lot.
No,
I don't want to
no,
get in.
no. I knocked Bannon out of there too. So I got Priebus, Spicer, and Bannon blown out the door alongside of me an 11-day period. And by the way, the most malevolent person I've yet to meet on planet Earth that's taking breath still living is Steve Bannon. So I don't think I get enough credit for uh, exposing what he was trying to do. And goodbye and good riddance. General Kelly fired me and him on the same day, but Bannon was such a baby about it. He begged to stay for 2 weeks so he didn't have to walk out the front door with me.
Why did you get in? Why did you become the communications director? I saw before that you were quite critical of Trump and you supported Obama. How did you even get? Why did you even accept such a job?
Well, I mean, there's a lot between those two stories. I was a lifelong Republican Party fundraiser. I supported Barack Obama in '08 because we were classmates in law school, and I had a personal relationship with many of the people on that campaign. But I was a Mitt Romney, George Bush supporter. When Donald Trump beat Jeb Bush, Bush's brother, in 2016, I joined his campaign as a loyal Republican. So even though, yes, I was critical, as are people in campaigns. Ron DeSantis, quite critical of Donald Trump. He's now endorsed him. George Bush, he said that Ronald Reagan's economic program represented voodoo economics. He went on to become his vice president. So it's very common in American politics to clash with each other and then because you're in the same party to join forces. And so I helped Mr. Trump get elected. I was on his executive transition team. It was a 16-person transition team in 2016. And when he offered me the job to go into the White House, there was an office opening, and he asked me to be the comms director. I was probably not well suited for that job, but I took it anyway. That was an ego-based and pride-based decision. But he had asked me to do a few things for him, which I was happy to do. And one of them was to get rid of Priebus and Bannon. And but I got into a fight with them. I also, by the way, Trump and I were not getting along. We didn't see certain things eye to eye. And so when the chief of staff was replaced, he asked General Kelly to fire me. And, I don't blame anybody but myself, Eli. I got fired because I deserve to be fired. In politics, there's no crying or whining in politics. Okay. I got fired, dusted myself off. I stayed loyal to the president and I stayed loyal to the party until it became impossible to do so. And then, of course, Mr. Trump continued his reckless spree of insanity as president, which ended in the debacle, the economic debacle that he helped to create around COVID. And of course, he lost the election to Joe Biden in 2020, and he'll lose the election coming up in November in 2024. The real question will be, does he run again in 2028 at the age of 82? And I believe that he will.
When did it become impossible for you to stop supporting Trump?
Well, everybody has a different moment, and some people, my critics would say, well, I should have never supported him in the first place. But I think each of us in the Republican Party, we did something called cognitive dissonance. We chose to ignore certain things he was saying and doing, and we chose to say, okay, well, he's a Republican, and there's really just a binary choice, and so that's our party, and those are our policies. Let's go with him. But he became extremely reckless, and when he started calling for the women of the squad, these are four congresswomen, three of which were born in the United States. One was a naturalized citizen from Africa. When he called for those three Congress women to be exported. He said they should go back to the countries they originally came from. So when he said that, I thought that was American nativism. I thought this was a form of racism. They said that to my Italian American grandmother back in the 1920s, and I renounced that. And my renunciation of that led to him becoming very critical of me. And I'm a New Yorker, so I'm not Ted Cruz. I responded with similar criticism back. I think I called him the fattest president since William Howard Taft because I think he hates being as fat as he actually is. And then the fight started. And then obviously, Mr. Trump being Mr. Trump, he went after my wife, which, I don't know. I guess Ted Cruz thinks it's cool for Trump to go after his wife, but it's not cool for me. I'm a New Yorker. And, I will work tirelessly to make sure that he gets defeated in 2024.
Yeah, so one of the big moments for me, you mentioned those cases, one of the big moments was for me about that really made, made me see Trump in a different light was actually at the end of the presidency when he picked up the phone to call up George, to call up, what's it called, the governor of Georgia, and asked to
Yeah, the
find another,
Secretary of State. Yep.
yeah, to ask
Mhm.
to find another 11,000 votes. That was just crazy.
Well, that's him. I mean, look, he's known to kick the ball on the golf course. He'll throw your ball into the woods while he's taking his ball out of the sand trap. He's known to do these things. It's obviously he's on trial right now. I don't think anybody that's listening to the transcript of the trial uh, doesn't believe the facts of the trial. Now, I don't. I think it's highly unlikely they find a jury of 12 people to convict Donald Trump. I don't. There'll be one or two people on that jury that will not convict him. But I mean, the facts are the facts. I mean, this is a very lying, very dishonest, very evil guy, and I shouldn't have supported him from day one. I made that mistake, and I'm not going to make the mistake now. And
Do you
by the
think?
way,
Yeah.
people that don't make mistakes are dishonest. Because if you get to be old enough, and I'm 60, you're not going to spend 60 years on planet Earth and not make any mistakes. And so, if you have viewers and listeners that have never made mistakes, God bless you. I'd like to meet those people. And maybe, we'll get a sample of their DNA for posterity. But I'm somebody that's made mistakes before. I'm willing to admit mine. And I'm also willing to change course when I've made them. And so that's where I am. And listen, the problem is that he's going up against a 81-year-old man. And so you have two movies being played. You have Weekend at Bernie's, and you have One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So I'm going to go with the elderly, forgetful person, Joe Biden, over the full-on crazy person, Donald Trump. I mean, unfortunately, those are our only two choices in this coming election.
Why are you so certain that Trump is going to lose and Biden's going to win? The polls, as far as I've seen it, show them more or less head on.
Well, I mean, listen, the polls are very early. I think that there's a Bradley effect in the United States, and so what ends up happening is people don't want to admit that they're voting for Biden yet. And so when they're called by the pollsters, and these things are still done by phone calls, I don't think they admit it. But I think the Republicans have destroyed their relationship with women in the country, specifically suburban women. And I don't care if you're the most conservative, buttoned up woman, there is a woman in your life that's gone through some birth control trauma in her life. And it could be you yourself or one of your family members. And so the Republicans now are removing the reproductive choices of women. They're also challenging things like IVF. They've revoked Roe versus Wade. That's owned by the Republicans. It cost the Republicans votes in the 2022 midterm elections. Joe Biden was supposed to lose those midterm elections. He did quite well in those elections, and people cited the revocation of Roe versus Wade. And so you're in May. May is very early. By the time you get to November, you'll see that there'll be a very wide gap. Joe Biden will return to the presidency. But the other thing is, this will be a get out the vote movement in the United States. These are known entities. This is not like Barack Obama arriving on stage in 2008 and had to get a getting to know you tour going. These are two very well-known entities. Everyone has an opinion of both of these political figures, and now it will be a get-out-the-vote exercise. Donald Trump won't have the money. There'll be way more field offices for the Biden campaign in those swing states than the Trump people. And yeah, I think he's going to lose quite handily. But again, that won't be the last of him. We'll be dealing with him in 2028. But he is doing something that all of us should be concerned about. He's shrinking the Republican Party. The Republican Party, the grand old party, now has the lowest number of registrants. The highest number, of course, are independents, second highest Democrats. And the Republicans continue to lose registrations as a direct result of the white supremacist, anger based nonsense that's associated with Donald Trump.
And a lot of those Republicans are going to independent. But let's assume that Trump loses in 2024. I actually think it's much really close. I know you're saying with certainty. I think it's very close. But saying he loses in 2024, do you think he's just going to run and run and run again until he wins?
Well, he's going to run and run. He's never going to. Trump will never see the presidency again. He may return to the White House if a kind-hearted Republican invites him back for the portraiture release. But I don't ever see him setting foot on the grounds of the White House in any official capacity ever again. And so I think he's a despised human being. Even the people that are supporting him politically, that are elected officials, quietly despise him. I think that's very well known. And so once he goes down, I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Wizard of Oz. It was a 1939 classic, but when the witch had the water thrown on her and she disappeared, the guards turned to Dorothy and said, "Geez, I apologize." So a lot of these people are held hostage by the perceived power of Donald Trump. But when he gets finished off eventually, it'll be a weaker Republican Party. And there'll be a group of people in that party that'll be questioning themselves, why did they allow it to go as far as they allowed it?
Do you think any of the cases are gonna put Trump in jail?
No, I do
No,
not think
really.
he's not going to jail. He's a former president, man. You don't know the country? They're not going to put a former president in jail. Neither
So
side will do that.
Oh, okay. So, so nothing. So, for example, even what happened recently, this gag orders. He keeps breaking this gag order. The judge keeps on saying that if you break it, I'm going to have to throw you to jail. But it's never going to happen, no matter what he
No,
does.
he's not going to go to jail. I don't see. You're asking again. This is
Yeah.
an opinion. I don't see him going to jail. You're asking me my opinion about the election. I'm telling you what's going to happen. He's not going to jail. He's going to keep mouthing off, and the judge is going to keep fining him, but he's not going to jail.
Well, I guess we'll see. Thanks so much for joining.
It's great to be on with you, my friend. Okay, you be well.